occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $833 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer.
Hey, this is Avril Lavigne. Honoring fierce, fearless females for Women's History Month on Queens of Pop. Paying homage to women in music that have pushed boundaries and shattered glass ceilings. Sirius XM Queens of Pop.
Now for a limited time on Channel 79 and anytime on the Sirius XM app.
With the SiriusXM Platinum VIP plan, you can unlock the ultimate listening experience in up to 2 cars and stream anywhere with 2 app logins. Enjoy our greatest content, opportunities for live VIP experiences, and prioritize customer care. Plus, get access to over 5,000 audio and video concert recordings through nugs.net. Call 844-711-8800 and become a VIP. Offer details apply. Not available in Canada.
24 election on Sirius XM.
To fight for our democracy. That's been the work of my first term.
Thrilled to be back with thousands of proud American patriots.
Every voice matters.
How far left as you can get?
This president has not complied with his oath.
Left, right, center, decided, or undecided.
We have to use our voices. We have to stand up for what we believe.
The only place for every perspective and your voice about your vote on Sirius XM.
Excitement of the men's and women's NCAA basketball tournament on Sirius XM and the all-new Sirius XM app.
A 6-team has beaten a 1.
Search March Madness to hear Westwood One's coverage of all the games.
Holy smokes, what a play!
Plus pre- and post-game shows to get analysis on basketball and beyond with Coach K. Get radio channels for your games at SiriusXM.com/sports or search March Madness on the all-new Sirius XM app.
We're blowing up online. Hip-Hop Nation connects you to the biggest hits in the game.
That's the difference when you're my baby. That's how it is when you're...
Just turn up and vibe. Hip-Hop Nation. Commercial-free hip-hop hits. Channel 44 and the Sirius XM app. To hear these channels, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visiting SiriusXM.com/go.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. That's the 01868.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici, let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day, a beautiful March 19th, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, this standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit ya, where the good Lord split you, and hopefully he didn't split you too big. If that makes sense to you, get a belt. because it's all fair level war. I tell you, so many great things happening in the world of Big C Sports. Got some NCAA March Madness already planned. Some HBCUs are planned today. And then also got the women's teams that are also going to be doing their thing. I'm going to be bringing those up also for Big C Sports Podcast. I don't want to leave the women out. If you love women, give women some praise. Sometimes they get left out because the men's teams tend to pay more because that's the way sponsors do it, because that's the way good old boys set it up. But it's all fair and level. We're going to try to give some equal time with Big C Sports, with equal time, and really do appreciate that. I love talking about things that are happening in the world of sports. Today, I'm going to talk about some of the brackets and how people will get their groups together. Going to also recap some of the NFL 2024 free agency. And then, you know, there's a rumor. I can't confirm if it's real or not, but there's a rumor that ESPN signed a $7.8 billion deal to take college football through 2031. Can't confirm or deny it, but it's all fair level war. But also, when it comes to being a billionaire, give being a billionaire some praise. Really do appreciate that. I've been into that because sometimes on a beautiful Tuesday, a lot of miraculous things have been happening in the world of Big C Sports Podcast. Really do appreciate telling you that, because it's not a secret if you tell somebody. But if it's a secret, then you may not be able to share it with a lot of people. I want to say Big C Sports has no secrets. But what I want to do with Big C Sports, I want to always pay homage to the Veterans Crisis Hotline, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And some of our veterans, they go through issues. People love when they say, we love our country, but they don't go to battle for our country. Our veterans do. And sometimes they come down with PTSD. I want to make sure that I do my part to get them some help. The Veterans Crisis Hotline, they are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. It could even be the person that you see in the mirror. You know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. And it's nice when somebody's leaning back the Veterans Crisis Hotline. Really do appreciate that. I also want to say with Big C Sports Podcast, on every show, I have to tell you, I have been told by a few people that I talk too slow. Some people say, man, Big C, I love your show, but can you talk a little bit faster? I've only gotten that request a couple of times, but I want to say I produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our life. I never use more laughter. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I even do the storytelling. And then I do the play-by-play. I love to say, Steph Curry for 3! Maybe since I'm seeing Steph, it starts saying, Curry for 3! And maybe somebody thinks I play for the Golden State Warriors. All fair and level war. The show is uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City. And I'm in Denver Hills, California. And then number 10, I never missed a show since creating Big C Sports Podcast back in the days of Salem Media. It also goes out to 4 TV platforms streaming: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon and Fire TV. And I really do appreciate that. So many great things happening in the world of sports. But I want to tell you, I can't get enough of trying to make a TV commercial. I don't know if I want to do commercial or infomercial, but I'm thinking I can try to do both, because I've been told that you can't have too much of a good thing. If you've ever had too much of a good thing, then share it with me, because I want more of a good thing. So there's a commercial by Larry Bird called Mayhem. You know, the Mayhem guy, every time he comes to town, he tears everything up. So Larry Bird, you may have heard it before, but he has some birds in his attic. So he called Mayhem to try to get the birds out of his attic. And the Mayhem showed up and he said, hello, I'm here to see Mr. Bird. And he said, yeah, I'm Mr. Bird. He said, well, I heard you had some birds in your attic. He said, yeah, I do. He said, can you show me the attic? So he took Mayhem to the attic, and attic said, you know, I see some birds right now. And Larry was trying to help the Mayhem catch the birds, but he couldn't quite get them. And at the end of the day, Mayhem set a trap for the birds, but it was Larry Bird who fell to the floor. And like Jordan said, the ceiling is the roof. If that makes sense. Well, I have a solution. Would you like to hear it? I'm glad you asked. He should have called RDC with a Big C team. We have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth, resource development consulting. With over 3 decades of experience, we have the missing link to catch all those birds. Long-term care solutions by the book, helping seniors get their benefits so we can help them protect their assets. If that makes sense, team, Larry Bird could have used that. Medicare and you. We have Taking Care of Tomorrow. We have Medi-Cal in California. Some places it's called Medicaid. And I'm Big C, also known as a business development consultant. And your family can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs. You can find out your options. And Larry Bird said, okay, Big C, what are the options? Why would I use you instead of Mayhem? I said, Mr. Bird, Mr. Larry Bird, our promise to you is to specialize to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets, including those birds in your attic. You're going to get those birds out of your attic. And we do it without a spin down. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by our entitlement specialists. If that makes sense, ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary, benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescriptions, medical equipment costs, and more. You know anybody dealing with skilled nursing facilities, prescriptions, and medical equipment costs, Mr. Bird? We also provide protection of your assets. Some people say I have a speech impediment, and some people say I talk too slow, so I'm trying to fix both at the same time. But we protect your assets. We try to do that anyway. But you got to pull your pants up, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family and avoid the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program, which can be 10 to 40%, and a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance costs. You got to give that some praise. Give that some praise. But what somebody told me one time is, I'm not done yet. I got to tell you why I say I'm not done yet. Because in the world of business, with Big C Sports and the Big C team, I'm telling you this so many times, I run across a business person and a business owner. Oftentimes, I will say to them, if we can beat what you're doing right now with your business insurance, will you give it a chance to earn your business? And oftentimes people say, well, I have a really good plan and I'm very happy with what I have. And I say, I understand that. But at the same time, if we can beat what you're paying, would you give us a chance to earn your business, Mr. Larry Bird? And they oftentimes will say, well, sure. I said, well, what we do with the RDC team is we have protection, which is insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation. We have lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care, avoid probate and life insurance. What about fixed assets? Big C, do you have that? I'm glad you asked. Taking care of your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, your money market, certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, fixed index annuities. What else? What about variable assets? Big C, do you take care of that? I'm glad you asked. Real estate, qualified money, IRA, 401k, and other investments. As I say to every business owner, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. I ran across a good old boy last week, and he got a chance to see what we do today. And as I say to every business owner, find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. Because at the same time with the Big C team, unlike the Mayhem commercial, professional general liability insurance, workers' compensation, commercial auto insurance, cyber liability insurance, property insurance, employers' practices, liability, group health insurance, and bonds. We constantly monitor the markets to make certain that we have absolutely the best insurance companies that offer the most comprehensive coverage at the most affordable rates. What else do you have, Big C? I'm glad you asked. We also offer the go extra mile to make the application process as easy for you as possible. Unlike trying to catch those birds and get them out of your attic. Our recent clients have enjoyed tremendous savings on their insurance costs by an average of 30%. All you got to do is call 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. And tell them Big C sent you. We just need a copy of your declaration page. Been doing this since 1990. Been supplying the service healthcare industry since 1990, providing superior client insurance protection plans with the best insurance companies. Also, I want to make sure if you have apartments and condos, auto repair shops, big shops and cafes, cannabis dispensaries, commercial real estate buildings, general contractors, artisan contractors, grocery stores and supermarkets, hotels, motels, holiday inns, let me not get into that song, that's rapper delight, but manufacturers and distributors, product liability, restaurants and bars, retail stores, surety bonds, and more. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. You get that without mayhem. We make sure we protect all of your assets. That's what you get with the Big C team and RDC. You got to give that some praise. I thought it was a commercial, but that's more like an infomercial, Big C. Well, I said I'm going to try to do commercial art infomercial. And I know it's a long time coming, but I've been working at it. I'm going to perfect it. I'm going to try to talk faster because some people say that I don't talk fast enough. I can't believe that, but you know you can't please everybody. If you can't please everybody, give that some praise. Sometimes you can't please anybody, but we try to please you with the RDC team. Plus, something that's more important too, with the Big C team, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. If you're an insurance broker, real estate broker, 800-772-8624, because we have an opportunity for you. Why would we call you Big C? Because we have the endorsements of the Mr. George Brown, attorney and chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, also California Chamber of Commerce Foundation, Mr. Leon Woods, Resource Development Consulting, one of the top lobbyists in California. We have Mrs. Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. 1,200 people turn 65 every day in California. We have Mr. Ray De La Cruz. He's the CEO of Resource Development Consulting, making sure he protects all of your assets. If that makes sense to you, Mr. Alex De La Cruz. He's the founder of American Veterans Benefits. Didn't I tell you about the Veterans Crisis Hotline? And I'm telling you, we're part of that. If you like that, give that some praise. That means somebody's endorsing what we're doing. We're talking about to start running advertising all over California and major media outlets, all fair level work. So that's what I say. That's what I love about the Big C team. And all of the affiliations, the National Black Wall Street Project, really do appreciate that as co-chair of Northern California chapter. And I told you, somebody said I don't talk fast enough on my show. I'm trying to talk fast as I can, but sometimes it's hard to keep up talking as fast as some people require me to talk. But that's the case. I'll do the best I can anyway. I also want to make sure that I do what no other sports show in the universe is doing. I pay homage to the California Reparations Task Force, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And I want to make sure that I do my part and paying homage to the people that make it possible. If that makes sense to you, I want to tell you that's important to me. No matter what people say, it's out there with the legislature. I want to thank the California Reparations Task Force, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I have a chair, Camila Moore, and she's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Dr. Amy C. Brown, the vice chair. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to thank California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to thank Council Member Monica Montgomery Steppe. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to thank Dr. Shell Grills. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to thank Attorney Donald K. Tamaki. He's brilliant, part of the California Reparations Task Force. I love giving him praise. And give that some praise if that makes sense to you. Give it praise. I want to thank Double O, Payout Committee of the National Black Wall Street Project. He sent me Executive Order 13985 on further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. That's the White House. She also has her own talk show on economic awareness. It's called Let's Eat. You know when it's time to eat? I want to have seconds, if that makes sense to you. Really do appreciate her. Also, I want to say thank you. I know it's March Madness, but the Georgetown University, right there in the heart of Washington, D.C., along with Howard and all the other great programs, you know, they already pledged over $1 billion in counting in reparations to descendants of child slavery, to 272 families that were sold off to pay the debts for Georgetown University. So even when people say, well, I don't know how you're going to do the reparations, I trust the lawmakers. I don't know how electricity works. All I knew is I turn my light on and the electricity works. But there's a way, and there's a will, there's a way it's going to happen. That's why I love giving praise to them. Also want to thank Double O, Payout Committee of the National Black Wall Street Project. Also has her own show called Economic Awareness, Let's Eat. She sent me this article from the United Nations, and it says that strong leadership and political will are crucial to ensure reparatory justice for descendants of African descent. That's African Americans. You got to give that some praise. It doesn't matter who believes in it. All that matters is that the lawmakers are willing to put it on the books and they're willing to vote for it. Just like voting for the next president of the United States, or if President Biden's going to be elected to a new term, a second term. And I think his vote lies in reaching out to African Americans. because that's who put him in the office the first time. I want to thank T-Mobile, America's largest 5G network, proud sponsors of Big C Sports. I want to thank PNC Private Bank, proud sponsors of Big C Sports Podcast. And I won $6 million. I said I was praying and talking about winning that lottery. You know, if I win the lottery tonight, it's like $700 million. You know, I can finally buy a full tank of gas. I kid you not. I had someone ask me for $10 today to buy some gas. $10. And I normally don't have cash on me. So I said, well, I can use my debit card and give you $10 of gas. I did what I could do. But I'm going to tell you, you pay things forward. And at the gas station, sometimes people swoop up on you and say, can you help me out? Well, I don't carry cash on me. I may have $5 in my pocket. But I just don't like to carry cash. But at the same time, you know who used to carry cash? Freedmen's Bank. Freedmen's Bank, created by Congress in 1863 in order to give black Americans, beg your pardon, 1865, in order to give black Americans, freed soldiers, a chance to put money in the bank. President Abraham Lincoln, he signed an executive order to make it happen because mainstream banks would not allow black Americans to put money in their banks. But you know they had 50 white trustees. It was a chartered U.S. bank. 1865, March 1865. This month, 1865. Does that make sense to you? After several successful years and over $60 million deposited, the bank collapsed in 1874. Think about that when people say we don't deserve reparations. Oh, it's too difficult to find out who gets the money. It's never difficult when they want to find something. They just do your DNA tracing. Like Ancestry.com, they have ways to do things. But the need for a free bank for freed blacks became evident during the American Civil War. I know we want to watch basketball now, you waiting for the tip-off, but African American soldiers in the Union Army, they were often denied access to conventional banks. You know how I just give out the Veterans Crisis Hotline? Those black Americans had nowhere to turn other than God. So think about that when you say we don't deserve reparations. After those soldiers and other black citizens put their money in the banks, would you believe that they were not able to get a loan from that bank? That bank was there to take money to deposit and invest in stocks, bonds, treasury notes, and other securities of the United States. It was not like a conventional bank. The bank, called Freedmen's Bank, was forbidden to make loans to African Americans, the people that put the money in the bank. Can you imagine that? When you think about that, how would you say that that's fair? It's not fair. We love playing with balls. March Madness is happening now. But we got to start using the ball of a pen to start getting reparations to pass. It's more than just cash. Whenever you talk about reparations for descendants of child slavery, there's always a pushback when it comes to helping black Americans. But would you believe a board of 50 white trustees was named to manage the bank's affairs? And they stole the money! They stole all of it. And then people say, well, that's a long time ago. What would you do if somebody stole your money out of your bank today? You can't tell me that you wouldn't go down and try to find out where that money went. You would try to ask that bank manager, the bank president. You write letters, you get a lawyer, you call the state, you do whatever you could to get that money back. That's what black Americans tried. They had no resource and no recourse whatsoever. The bank had over 30 branches. And so when people say, well, we can't pay reparations, it's too difficult. It was not too difficult to steal all the money. They refused to protect their assets. And I think the same thing needs to happen when it comes time to find a way to give that money back. Because we can't keep saying it's too difficult when it comes to doing justice for descendants of child slavery. So that's why I always love saying this is important when people say, well, it's too hard to find out who gets the money. Well, although the collapse of Freedmen's Bank was devastating to thousands of African Americans, would you believe, for those of you who say, well, it's too difficult to find out who gets the money, they had thousands of African Americans. Would you believe the records left behind by the bank have been proven to be invaluable for genealogists? The records are the largest single source of lineage-linked African American records known to exist. I'll say that again for those of you who say it's too difficult to see who gets the money. Thousands of records left behind by the bank have proved to be an invaluable source for genealogists. And the records are the largest single source of lineage-linked African-American records known to exist in the United States. You got to give that some praise. You got to give it praise. It's not what you know, it's what other people know. And that's what I love about Big C Sports Podcast. I want to be so factual. I want to make sure I do my part. And I want to say also, I want to thank the Associated Press because they wrote an article about Big C Sports, NBC News, CBS News, Fox News, ABC News. California reparations amount March 30, 2023. Just last year, Charlton Curry of Sacramento, California, who discusses reparations on his Big C Sports Podcast, that cash payments are necessary and that money talks. Now, I know a lot of people don't understand AB 3121. It's a legislative tracking the Reparations Task Force bill. I'm going to talk more about that with one of the task force members coming up this week on Big C Sports Podcast. And for those of you who are also cynical about how reparations are going to be paid out to descendants of child slavery, I just want you to take your cell phone and Google California Senator Stephen Bradford in SB 490. That's SB 490. Like Senate Bill and Stephen Bradford, SB 490, if that makes sense to you. And it's there to create Freedmen's Bureau in California. So when those people say, oh, it's not possible, it's too long ago, remember, it's not too long ago. And that's why I want people to understand that Big C Sports Podcast is real. You got to give that some praise. And before I get into some sports talk and March Madness, I want you to hear one of the greatest speakers in the history of the United States of America. Dr. Martin Luther King about reparations.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. Now, this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
You got to give that some praise. I said give it praise, praise, praise. And that's the great Dr. Martin Luther King. So who can tell Dr. King that he was wrong about reparations? Nobody can. In fact, Dr. King was with Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1966 when he signed the Civil Rights Law. He was right there with them. You know, there were people that scoffed at that idea. Oh, there's no way to do that. But they did it even against non-believers. So if you believe in the power of the pen, give that some praise. And that's what Big C Sports believes, in the power of the pen. And that's what I love talking about on every Big C Sports podcast. All you either need to do is lead, follow, or get out of the way, and then things will happen. If you are a leader, you'll make things happen. If you're a follower, just wait for things to happen. If you have no faith, then just get out of the way. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But as I tell you, it's all about what you do with your pen in the ball of a pen, not just having fear and an opinion. Put your opinion in writing. All's fair in love and war. I really do believe that. I want to talk about some things that go on for March Madness, but I want to give some time to the women's brackets because oftentimes people don't believe in what they're going to do. Obviously, there was a story that POTUS claimed he didn't have the $460 million to pay down some debt, a judgment that he got from the court. Whether people believe it or not, just like in reparations, sometimes people don't believe in anything until they see it. But I got this information. It's on social media, and it mocks POTUS 45 after he cannot post $464 million bond. If that makes sense to you, people got to understand, people have their own thoughts. So Trump caused quite a stir on social media Monday when his team told court officials that raising $464 million so he can appeal his civil fraud conviction is a practical impossibility. Now, the former president has not commented on his inability to pay the bond, but the reaction on social media was mostly shocking. And people keep saying that he's a multi-billionaire, but if he can't pay half $500 million, maybe he's not a multi-billionaire. People can say what they want to say. But many of those commenting noted that Trump's statement to a New York State court basically revealed that he may not be as flush with cash as he claims to be. But he is out there asking his followers to give him some money. I told you at the gas station this morning, a lady asked me if I could give her $10 to buy some gas. I said, I don't carry money. But I did buy her $10 worth of gas because I just felt like it's the right thing to do. At the same time, if I had several $1 billion, I probably would have filled her tank. Oh, Fred Leavenworth, it's just a story. But I want to touch on when it comes to women, oftentimes March Madness, they spend a lot of time focused on what the men can do, the men's teams, and the most one-shining moments mostly about men's basketball. Maybe because that gets the biggest ratings on television. Women's basketball doesn't get as high of ratings as it does on the men's side, so you can't blame the men for that. Title IX had a lot to do with this, with I guess you could say equity in sports for women's. But even with that, the media doesn't give it the same kind of asset protection. They let the women go out and perform, but it's not the same kind of money put behind the women when it comes to sports on television, and people know that. So I want to do my part because I may have been guilty of that as well. I'm only one beautiful, intelligent black man, and I'll do my best. But 2020, give me the best. Give me some praise for doing my best and trying to cover all the assets. March Madness, men's and women's, if that makes sense to you. So the brackets is already out there, and when you think about March Madness, there's so many people who want to cut down the nets too on the women's team. And then everybody has their own feeling. March the 20th, the first four will have number 16 seed Sacred Heart versus number 16 Presbyterian. That's 7 p.m. on ESPNU. Number 12 Vanderbilt versus number 12 Columbia. And that's 9 o'clock p.m. on ESPNU when you think about that. So they have so many brackets and so many games that have to be played. You got to get through a lot of them before you even get the chance to see how your team measures up. There's a lot of opportunity out there. But at the same time, women don't get the same coverage as men. They just don't. So sometimes I've been guilty of that too. I want to do my part and try to make up for it. I want to say that if you understand, it takes all of us to do that part. Thursday, March 21st, you have the first four, which is number 11, University of Auburn, and they're going to play Arizona out of the Pac-12, if that makes sense to you. Pac-12 basketball is going away for men's and women's conferences. That's a shame to me. But they're going to join the SEC, not the SEC, the Big Ten, and also the Big 12. Everybody's going to do that. You know, I'm thinking about it. When I think about these programs, Auburn versus number 11 Arizona, 7 o'clock p.m. ESPN2. 16 Holy Cross versus number 16 University of Tennessee Martin, 9 p.m. on ESPN2. And then, if that's not enough, you have more programs. You have Friday, March 22nd. On the first round, you have number 8 North Carolina versus Michigan State, and that tip-off is 11:30 a.m. on ESPN2. Your number 2 Ohio State versus number 15 Maine. That's a noontime tip-off on ESPN. You have number 6 Louisville versus number 11 Middle Tennessee. That's a 1:30 p.m. tip-off on ESPN2. Number 1 South Carolina versus Sacred Heart, and that's a 2 o'clock p.m. ESPN. I believe it's Sacred Heart. I know they play at Presbyterian. Number 7 seed Duke versus number 10 Richmond. That's a 2:30 p.m. tip-off on ESPN News. You have number 1 Texas versus number 16 Drexel. That's a 3 p.m. tip-off on ESPNU. Number 4 Virginia Tech versus number 13 Marshall. A 3:30 p.m. tip-off on ESPN2. Number 3 LSU versus number 14 Rice at 4 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. Number 4 Kansas State versus number 13 Portland. 4:30 p.m. tip-off on ESPN News. Number 8 Alabama versus number 9 Florida State. That's a 5:30 p.m. tip-off on ESPN2. Number 5 Baylor versus number 12 Vanderbilt play Columbia. That's number 6 p.m. tip-off on ESPNU. Number 5 Colorado out of the Pac-12 versus number versus number 12 Drake, 7 p.m. tip-off ESPN News. Number 7 Iowa State versus number 10 Maryland at 7:30 p.m. tip-off on ESPN2. You have number 3 Oregon State, the Beavers. They are going to remain at Pac-12 along with Washington State, but they're going to play mostly Mountain West teams. That's a shame what's happened to the conference. But they will play Eastern Washington, number 14 seed. So a battle of the Pacific Northwest on ESPNU, 8 o'clock p.m. tip-off. Number 2, Stanford versus number 15, Norfolk State, 10 o'clock p.m. ESPN2. I first got my start down at Maple Pavilion on the campus of Stanford way back in the day. And the women's on the Tar Vanderbilt are still doing their thing. You got number 6, Nebraska versus number 11, Texas A&M, 10:30 p.m. tip-off on ESPNU. You get into Saturday, March 23rd, number 6, Tennessee versus number 11, Green Bay at noontime tip-off on ESPN. Number 3, UConn. What a great program for UConn, the men and the women's programs. The Huskies versus number 14, Jackson State, 1 o'clock p.m. tip-off on ABC. Number 4, Indiana versus number 13, Fairfield at 1:30 p.m. The tip-off is on ESPN2. Number 8, Kansas versus number 9, Michigan, 2 o'clock p.m. tip-off on ESPN News. Number 2, Notre Dame versus number 15, Kent State, and that's a 2:15 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. Number 3, North Carolina State versus number 14, Chattanooga, 2:30 p.m. tip-off ESPNU. Number 1, Iowa versus number 16, Holy Cross, and that's a 3 o'clock p.m. tip-off on ABC. They had played University of Tennessee Martin. Number 6, Syracuse versus number 11 seed Auburn, Arizona winner, and that's a 3:30 p.m. tip-off on ESPN2. Number 5, Oklahoma versus number 12, FGCU, and that's at 4 p.m. tip-off on ESPN News. Number 1, Southern California, the Trojans leaving the Pac-12 to join the Big Ten, if that makes sense to you, versus number 16, A&M Corpus Christi. That's 4:30 p.m. on ESPN. Number 7, Ole Miss versus number 10, Marquette, 4:45 p.m. tip-off on ESPNU. Number 8, West Virginia versus number 9, Princeton, 5:30 p.m. tip-off ESPNU. Number 7, Creighton versus number 10, UNLV. The Running Rebels, 7 p.m. tip-off on ESPN News. Number 4, Gonzaga versus number 13, UC Irvine, 7:30 p.m. tip-off on the West Coast on ESPN2. Number 2, UCLA versus number 15, California Baptist at 9:30 p.m. tip-off on ESPN2. Number 5, Utah versus number 12, South Dakota State at 10 p.m. tip-off on ESPNU. And then other games are to be determined as the winners shake out in those brackets. I want to give that some praise, so I did my best to make sure that I don't ignore the women the way a lot of media outlets do. I'm not saying it's intentional, but sometimes they're just not covered as much. And I want to do my part to make sure I get equal time. Give equal time some praise. And hopefully our women will chant for reparations, because of mine is a terrible thing to waste. I love talking about that with Big C Sports. I want to touch on something also that is important to me. When I think about the men's brackets of NCAA March Madness, it's a powerful TV statement. There's some tips and predictions to set up your NCAA brackets. And again, everybody has their own opinion. I just want to make sure I protect my assets. RDC 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, 800-GAMBLER if you have a problem taking money out of your wallet and putting it into somebody else's wallet. Now, we can't help you protect your assets if you're fools enough to go out there and take money out of your wallet and pay it into other people. And before I get into March Madness, I just learned today, and I can't confirm or deny, but I heard through a rumor, I heard it through the grapevine, that if you don't have your property and your assets in a trust, if you're on Medi-Cal, I believe it's treated like a loan. At the end of life, the surviving spouse, through probate court, they will attach your assets and sometimes maybe even your property to pay off that debt that people think is getting free service. I didn't know that, but I heard it today. You can Google it for yourself. So the reason we do such a great job letting business owners and individuals know they need a trust to protect their assets is by the book, Long-Term Care. It's estate planning. You need a trust, and that's in the book that was put out in 1966, if that makes sense to you. But give that some praise if you ever want to know. That's why Big C Sports is the #1 sports show in the universe. We help you with a guide to protect and preserve your assets. Affleck! No, Aflac is gap insurance. Asset protection! You get that with RDC Team 800-772-864. Did you say asset protection, Big C? No, I said asset protection! Like HUD 1, HUD 2, Hutcher, asset protection! Larry Bird tried to get the commercial with the Mayhem guy, but they should have had Big C do that. Asset protection! I'm going to keep trying to get that infomercial going. But be that as it may, March Madness, to get more maddening every year, trying to put together a winning men's NCAA bracket. Just last year, for the first time in tournament history, both a 15 and a 16 seed, they got knocked off their number 2 and number 1 seeded. Think about that. They knocked off their opponents. And then Princeton went on to win again and become the 4th 15 seed to make the Sweet 16. I don't see that happening this year. It's too difficult. Whether they get there or not, you can't sneak up on people this time. I think it's going to be more about the good teams are going to play like the good teams. And it's not going to be as easy as some people want to make it. That's my opinion, and I'm going to stick with it. You can't always believe that a team is going to get lucky and a 16 is going to knock off a number 1 or a number 15 is going to knock off a number 2. But that's why they play the game. They play the game. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. So when I think about how you prepare of what team you're going to pick in your bracket, I always say pick the team that votes for reparations. And that's the Big C team. And I'm not shucking and jiving. But regardless of how much research you do, your odds of picking all 63 teams or all 63 games, not including the 4 playing games, it's almost impossible. Like when I won the lottery tonight, I just meditated. I was meditating on the winning numbers. Next thing you know, I can buy a full tank of gas. It's called a Mega Millions. If your bracket doesn't need to be perfect, and a lot of people can't get perfect, a little luck will help. A little luck will help you. Just a little luck. It's all it takes. Like they say, $2 is all you need to become a millionaire. Well, when I first started playing lotto, it was like $1 all you need. Even that went up. Inflation. So your bracket does not need to be perfect. Just a little luck and perhaps follow a few trends based on the 38 years of history since the tournament grew to 64 teams. And it just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. But you'll still need to make a few guesses or educated guesses along the way. But it's for fun. Don't take money that you need to buy food, clothing, and shelter and try to win March Madness. That's my story. You got to use your own mind to protect your assets. Because they'll take the money out of your pocket if you let them. So pick the first and second seeds in the first round of the bracket. Just my thoughts. And whether you're right or not, they're usually a number 1 or 2 seed for a reason. I know sometimes you get knocked off, but when you think about the tournament, the traditional NCAA tournament bracket, the first round comes down to 4 sets of those 8 pairings. Of the 2,432 squares, it represents all teams not counting the play-in teams that have competed in March Madness since 1985. So you have a way of going through picking your brackets, but it doesn't mean that you're going to win. I say do your research, and when I do Big C's power rankings for college basketball, those teams are going to be in there. It's a miss and make league. If you're able to get in and get lucky enough, it's just for fun. So people do it for fun. And thanks to the efforts of the NCAA Selection Committee, if you just pick the highest seeded teams throughout the tournament, your odds improve significantly, especially through the first few rounds, because you have number 1s versus number 16s, number 2s versus number 15s, and that makes number 1 and 2 seeds a good bet in almost every tournament. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Now, the NCAA has hosted its own online bracket contest during the past 9 tournaments. They found that players get 2/3 of their picks right when they base their picks on likely outcomes, like a number 1 is going to be the number 16, a number 2 is going to be the number 15, and number 3 is going to be the number 14, etc. That's pretty accurate. But that method improves your odds of a perfect bracket in 1 to 120 billion. It's very difficult. That's 70 million times better than coin flipping, but likely outcomes probably won't be enough to win among your friends and coworkers. A lot of offices, they have their office pools now where you can pick your bracket. They do it for fun. Don't bet your lunch money on it if that makes sense to you. Now, the odds are stacked against 15 and 16 seeds winning. It happened last year, but it's very, very rare. And part of part of that is the odds are stacked against the 8 lowest seeded teams this year because of their wins in the 2023 tournament. Like I told you, 15 and 16 seeds won in the first rounds last year, but 13 times to be exact, as you can see the chart. How does the average work out? It's about 1 in 3 tournaments with a 15 and 16 seed winning. Last year, that happened last year. So what did the guy say in Dumb and Dumber? What's his name? Luke Carey? I think it's Luke Carey. That's Jim Carrey, Big C. Okay, it's still last name Carey. He said, when he asked the woman, what odds do I have of dating you? She said about 1%. And he said, so that means I have a chance. But he didn't bet his lunch money on it, if that makes sense to you. If you're going to play March Madness, do it for the fun of it. Don't bet your lunch money on it. It's for fun. But some people take it so serious, they end up losing a lot. If you don't want to do that, that's my opinion. But how often lower seeds win the NCAA tournament? On average, you can count on at least one upset by the 10, 11, and 12 seed in each tournament. In 2023, no number 12 seed won, but a number 13 seed, Furman, did. It's odd that you can get a number 16 to be the 1 or 15 to be the 2. But as you get closer and closer to the lower seeds, chances are they have a chance of winning. A lot of players now, they play in tournaments all around the country, so they get to see some of the top teams in the tournament. And if they get the matchup again in March Madness, they've been battle tested, if that makes sense to you. So how many upsets should you pick in the NCAA tournament bracket? The guessing games begin. It starts just now as you fill out your bracket. On average, between 1985 and 2023, there have been just over 8 upsets per tournament, or just about 13% of the 63 games, according to the NCAA. And some years are bound to break brackets. Both 2021 and 2022 had 14 total upsets. Upsets included, the numbers don't include number 8 versus 9 games. That's probably the best time to consider flipping a coin to make your pick. The number 9 seeds currently have a 4-game edge over the number 8. So that might argue for a majority of number 8 seeds to be a winner this year. But you're really going to find a number 16 beating the number 1 or a number 15 beating the number 2. That just doesn't happen often. Picking the Final Four gets more challenging, and that's why Big C brings in his special investigator. Big C, I'm your special investigator. I'm going to try to protect all your assets. I don't bet on games. If you do, 800-772-8624 and get your asset protection. If you bet on games, put all your property in a trust so you don't lose all of your assets. That's I'm trying to pick teams. But picking the Final Four gets more challenging. Since 2011, at least one number 7 seed or lower has made the Final Four, except for 2019. Even that tournament would have required some creative guessing. The eventual champion, Virginia, was a number 1 seed, but the other 3 included number 2 Michigan, actually Michigan State, number 3 Texas Tech, and number 5 Auburn, if you recall back then. Also, just picking all the number 1 seeds to make the Final Four is less likely now than a number 16 seed toppling a number 1 seed, which has happened twice. All 4 number 1 seeds made the Final Four only once, and that was in 2008. So you can take your bracket and look at the number 1 seeds. Chances are that's not going to appear in March Madness. I'm picking UConn to win the national championship. In the Final Four, I think Houston has a chance to knock them off. I think Tennessee has a chance to knock them off. And I'm going to say Arizona. That's my seeding for the Final Four, but I don't put money on it. And still, a number 1 seed is still the best choice for the tournament champion. That's why I'm going with UConn. If they can do it, they'll be back-to-back national champions. And people would say, well, give them some praise. I want to give them praise. It's hard to do. 800 grand if you put your money on it. But maybe you shouldn't have 4 number 1s in your Final Four. But they've piled up 24 championships in nearly 4 decades, including 8 of the past 11 tournaments, also since 2005. And number 1 seed has won at least every other year. So the rankings mean something. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. So perhaps UConn will bring home a 2nd consecutive championship. This season will be as a number 1 seed, not a number 4 seed like last year. If you think about it, they're a battle-tested team no matter who's ranked ahead of them. And that's what I like about UConn. Think about Purdue. They lost in the Big Ten tournament. But maybe that took some of the pressure off of them also. So it doesn't mean they won't cut down the nets in Arizona this year. But I just don't think they will. But they're a good team, but they got hat last year also. But they were beaten by a 16 seed last year. After Virginia's historic loss to a number 16 seed in 2018, they followed that up with a national championship in 2019. So I want to just run down some schools in the tournament, schools that have won the NCAA men's tournament. And you can go back to a long time ago to figure it out. And everybody has their own choice. I'm just going to pick a couple of them. I'm not going to get into all of them. But when you think of the Blue Blood programs, UCLA, in 13 games, they have 11 wins. The last time they won was 1995. Kentucky, in 12 games, they have 8 wins. The last championship came in 2012. North Carolina, 12 games, 6 wins. Last win, 2017. You have the great Duke. 11 games, 5 wins in championship games. The last time they won a championship, 2015. Indiana, they have 6 games in the championship. They have 5 wins. Their last win came in 1987. What about Connecticut? In 5 championships, they have 5 wins. The last win came last year, 2023. I think they'll get again this year in 2024. That's a pretty safe bet. They're 5-5. Means they don't lose. In order to get to the championship game, you got to beat some teams. I have Kansas. Kansas is a great Blue Blood program. In 10 games, they have 4 national championships. Last one, 2022. How about Villanova? 4 times in the championship game, and they have 3 wins. Last time, 2018. How about Cincinnati? 3 times in the championship game, they have 2 wins. Last time, 1962. What were you doing in 1962? Florida, 3 times in the title game, 2 national championships. Last time, 2007, they beat UCLA. Louisville, 2 times in, 2 championships. Last time, 1986. How about Michigan State? 3 times in the championship game, 2 national championships. Last one in 2000. North Carolina State, 2 times in the championship game. They have 2 wins. Last one, 1983. You have Oklahoma State, 2 times in the national championship game, and they have 2 wins. Last time, 1946. What were you doing in 1946? How about University of San Francisco, the Dons, up on the hill in San Francisco? 2 national championship games, 2 national championship wins. Last one, 1956. How about Arizona, a team that I'm picking to make the Final Four this year? Their last year in the Pac-12 Conference. Arizona, 2 times in the championship game, they have 1 national championship. Last time, 1997. Wouldn't it be something if they could win it all in their final year in the Pac-12 Conference? How about Arkansas, the great Nolan Richardson teams, 2 times in the national championship. 1 time they cut down the nets. That was 1994. Bill Clinton was there. We have Baylor, the Baylor Bears, 2 times in the national championship game. They have 1 championship. Last one, 2021, when they beat Gonzaga. How about the California Golden Bears? 2 times in the national championship game. They have 1 national championship. Last time, 1959. That's a long time ago. How about Georgetown, the university that already passed reparations for 272 families, descendants of child of slavery, that were sold off, past over $1 billion and counting. They are in the same city as the White House, Washington, D.C. 4 times in the national championship game. 1 championship, that was 1984, the late John Thompson. Holy Cross! Holy Cross 4 times. Beg your pardon, 1 time in the national championship game. And 1 national championship for Holy Cross. That was 1947. How about Loyola Chicago? 1 time in the national championship. 1 national championship win. 1963 was their last national championship. How about Marquette? 2 times in the national championship game. 1 national championship. That was 1977. How about the University of Maryland? 1 time in the national championship. And 1 national championship win. That was 2002. And just a few more to whet your palate, because that's just the way it goes. You have Michigan, mighty Michigan, 7 times in the national championship. 1 national championship win. That was 1989. They got rid of their coach, Mr. Howard, and now they're looking for another coach. Ohio State, 5 times in the national championship game. 1 championship. That was 1960. That's a long time ago. What about Oregon? The quack Oregon Ducks now joining the Big Ten. One time in the national championship, one championship win. That was 1939. Stanford, one time in the national championship, one win. 1942. Syracuse, 3 times in the national championship game, one championship win. 2003, the great Carmelo Anthony. UNLV running Rebels. The Jerry Tarkanian, one time in the national championship. They will have one championship win. That was 1990 with Grandmama and the good old boys from the UNLV running Rebels. Utah, the Utes, 2 times in the championship. One win, 1944. UTEP, one time in the finals. And the one win in 1966. In Virginia, one time in the finals, one win, 2019. Wisconsin, 2 times in the finals, one championship win. Wyoming, one time in the finals and one championship win. 1943. Well, 2013, Louisville's title was vacated by the NCAA. Michigan's participation in the 1992 and 1993 Final Fours was also vacated by the NCAA. Well, give it all praise. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But I got to finish with a little bit of trivia. The longest bracket has ever stayed perfect. According to the NCAA, for you good boys that like to bet on March Madness, an Ohio man correctly predicted the entire 2019 men's NCAA tournament in the Sweet 16, which set the record for the longest verified March Madness bracket win streak at 49 games. The NCAA began tracking brackets from major online platforms, including their men and women's brackets, Challenge Game, ESPN, CBS, and Yahoo since 2016. So if you hear that stat, it's hard to think how people spend hours upon hours trying to figure out who's going to win a championship. I say do it for the fun and do it for the love of it. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, everybody has fun with March Madness. I do believe paying homage to the California Reparations Task Force, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I love doing Big C Sports Podcast, and I'll talk more about NFL football later and the people that made good strides and also in the NFL. But you got to think about March Madness. It is a great time for a lot of young people to get out there and compete for a championship and to champion for their schools. We have cheerleading competition. They do the best they can to represent their schools and universities. I just want to wish everybody the very best. No matter what team you win, one shiny moment, you're all looking for that. That's my story. I'm taking with it. Well, as I always tell you, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink, because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You could call Uber, you could call Lyft, you could walk it off, you could sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car after they've been drinking and driving. The life you save may be your own. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you on every Big C Sports show, I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy. On my mother's side, my great-grandmother called her Mama, beautiful, loving, kind woman. My great-grandfather called him Pop, the real McCoy, can fix anything, planes, trains, and automobiles. My beautiful grandmother called her Mud Dear, beautiful, loving, kind woman. She was a seer, could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. And then my grandfather Hezekiah, another one of a person, a seer, could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, present, and their future. And I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and also coached an all-boys Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. Always saying rise and shine. The best person I ever met in my life. I love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. On my father's side, my grandfather, Albert Curry, a former pastor, had 3 churches and owned 2 gas stations. He also owned 40 acres of land. And then my beautiful grandmother, Alberta Curry, working side by side with my grandfather with the 3 churches and the 2 gas stations. She told me I was 8 years old. She said, there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. And I really do appreciate the way she sewed into me. And then my beautiful father, I'm telling you, former United States airline fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. Really do appreciate my dad, always saying, develop your mind to its highest extent. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful brother Todd, with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak, always saying go forward. Ever a voracious reader, really do appreciate Todd. Love my brother Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors, and 3.5 years from a major university And Daisy actually set up the very first interview for Big C Sports back in the days of Salem Media. It was the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. It had never happened before until two black men in the crew started doing our thing. But shenanigans set up, and that happened also. At the same time, Daisy, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. I love you with everything I have, all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And you can be anything you want to be. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College student, very smart, erudite, a good man. Always trust God. Stay away from confusion. You can be anything you want to be. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And one day, Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper and look up stats in newspapers for players and teams for Big C Sports Podcast. One day, Malcolm said, "Dad, why don't you just Google it?" And the light bulb went off. Been Googling ever since. One day, Malcolm said, "Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up." That's before it was even on the air. And shortly after that, you can see it streaming on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, just like my great-granddaddy coming out of that barn with his church buddy saying, you got to believe, saying, let's get ready to rumble. I love saying, welcome to the show. SP-nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. That's pretty obvious, Big C. I have no three-way teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. All I got is my higher self, and I trust God with everything I have. As I always tell you, my mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. If you know anybody going through garbage, pick up the phone and call 911. Anyone that loves you, they don't hit you. They don't hurt you, they don't choke you out. You need more LEADA in your life. LEADA is an acronym for love is the answer. Anybody ever put their hand on you, they don't love you. Call 911, let them deal with it. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how could you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. Every time I put someone in the rope-a-dope, I'm trying to protect my assets. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to say reparations now, reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly and I sting like a bee. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, what about Abraham Lincoln, Big C? You forgot about him? No, I haven't. I'm glad you asked. Well, what would Abraham Lincoln say and Dr. Martin Luther King say to the president right now? He says, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Come on, say it like you're going to cheer for the game. They say sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Don't say it's impossible. Nothing's impossible. Just sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.